Mhm.
Liz, thank you so much for joining me on Hitmakers Exposed. So delighted to have you here. I've been looking forward to this session for the longest time. Thank you for being here.
It's always a pleasure, Martin. Thank you for having me.
Thank you, thank you, thank you. I've got so much to ask you about. We've got so much to talk about, largely because you've had such a ridiculously successful career working with some of the biggest names out there, of which I'm very, very envious. So let's get started. Miss Rodrigues, let me take you back to when you were a child.
Let's
Um,
go. You
lie
sure you
back on
want to
the
hear about all that?
let's lie back on the virtual couch and tell me where and when music first got into your bones.
Where and when music? That is such a good question because I feel like I can't really pinpoint a time. I mean, I hear these stories of people talk about, oh, their moms will say she was turning over at 3 months old and humming a song already. I don't think that was my story, really. I feel like it started much later, but I've always loved music. Music's always moved me. Melodies always moved me. Dance has always moved me. If you wanted to well, I was an athlete growing up, but quickly got into dance and music, early teens, maybe 15, 14, 15. That's as far back as I can really remember it making an impact on me, really, or me thinking, well, maybe I do like this thing. I was more of a very physical, athletic in school. If you want me to get to class, then you'd have to hang the you're not allowed to join any team, or you can't go to practice unless you attend your history class, kind of thing. And so that I was very driven by that. But early on, I remember school, um, plays and talent shows and stuff like that. I should say I was terrified of standing in front of people. I do remember one instance in early grade school where I had to get up and like recite something. I don't remember. I think it was a poem or something. And it just died. I died thinking about it. I went cold. My lips, I could feel my lips cold, and I couldn't recall anything standing up there in front of people. So stage fright, standing in front of people on my own was always super scary for me. So I never thought of myself as a performer. And I joke around and say when I did dream about music and being a musician, I was always the drummer. I was in the back and I was drumming along, and the spotlight was at the front of the stage somewhere. So yeah, it's crazy. I never thought of myself as being the singer at the front of the stage and being in the spotlight. That just did not wasn't something that got me going. And so I'm going to say around 15, 16, I started singing at school and at a boys and girls club in inner city Toronto called the Kiwanis Boys and Girls Club. Um, I was in, I don't even remember. I think I was either a member or I started working there. That was like one of my first jobs, was at this boys and girls club. And they put me in the gym, and I loved doing that. But there was, like a creative arts room, and I eventually took over, leading that room, or working in that room for the kids who wanted to come in and out and draw and do paintings and all this stuff. And I remember turning on Boys to Men. They'd have the little cassette players and stuff, and trying to pick out all the different voicings for fun. I'd just be like, oh, this person's doing this note, these notes, and trying to sing along to the other ones, whichever ones were challenging enough to pass, just get the hours going, because I was there all day in the summer or however I was working. And sometimes the room was just, there was no one in there. So I just sit there and listen to music and try to pinpoint all the melodies and stuff. Still not thinking, I want to be a singer. I want to be a songwriter. That was not in my mind. I wanted to do something in like athletics. I wanted to go into kinesiology and do something completely different. But then at the Kiwanis Club, they had these performances for the board members. We were constantly trying to keep the Kiwanis Club open because it was this little hole in the wall on was it Bellwoods or Claremont in Toronto. And I mean, the ceiling was maybe 8 feet tall. The gym, I could dunk in the gym. I'm only 5'4". So it was that. It was not this rec center that we, think of when you think of Toronto, because there's some incredible ones. It was in the basement of an old building, and it was an incredible place. And that's where I really started singing, between there and high school, and getting like parts. And, I'm just recalling, like, in the middle of the foyer there, when we walked in, sometimes we'd get into these little circles and sing stuff and dance. And yeah, I was a part of a little dance crew, and we'd have these routines to like all this, top 40 sort of urban
Wow,
stuff.
this sounds like Pitch Perfect. It's like just like a rerun of
Yeah,
that.
it was totally that. And we'd perform it. Sometimes we'd practice in the hallways and stuff. And then all of a sudden I'm singing Greatest Love of All by Whitney Houston, and people started watching. And I was like,
That's a
oh,
big song. I mean, it's like,
yeah.
as your entree into
I know.
live performing. I know I'll pick Whitney Houston. It's like,
Yeah, well, and there's this cool story that I do remember. The first recording I heard back of myself, there was a spot called Mr. Green Jeans in the Eaton Center of Toronto, in Toronto. And it was upstairs there, and it was this restaurant where you could go into these little booths, and there would be these lyric books. They were like telephone books, huge, thick lyric books in these little plastic sheets. And it was a vocal booth, and you could pay to sing a song out of this. It's like karaoke on your own, just going into a recording studio, and you'd have these little booths, and you'd leave with a cassette of whatever recording, whatever song you did. And I did Greatest Love of All, Whitney Houston, and Bette Midler's God is Watching Us. What song is that? From a Distance.
oh yeah,
Did From a Distance. And that was the first recording I ever heard back of my voice. And I remember just bringing it home. And my parents sort of looked at each other and, what, that's Liz. My mom put it into the recording, or was it my dad? One of them, they put it into the cassette player and played it out. And then I remember the other parent walking in and going, "Who's that?" That's Liz.
did they support you once they'd heard that? Did they sort of help you did they realize that it was something special?
Absolutely, yeah. My aunt was really involved in the Portuguese community, my dad's sister, Maria. And she said, "Oh," and my dad played it for her, and they all started, listen to Liz sing. And I sort of just tucked away in the background and was like, is it good? I don't know. I think it is. And then my aunt called up a vocal coach in the Portuguese community here in Toronto, Luís Felipe Neves. I'll never forget him. And he was Sean Desmond's, there's a Canadian artist here, well-known artist here, and he was everyone's vocal coach. And I started taking lessons with him. And then the next thing you know, I was a part of all of these Portuguese festivals and dinners and you name it, because the community here is huge. So especially in the summer, there's all these festivals and outdoor things, and it's a pretty big deal. And a lot of people come out, and they'll bring in people from Portugal. And so next thing you know, I was on stage. That's from like 15 to 19
Wow.
right there. So yeah, that
That's
was a
fantastic. And a lot of people come to me, and they're in a similar situation where, and it can be at any stage of life, where they're singing, they're recording, they're part of a scene. And
Mhm.
the big question that I'm always getting posed is, well, how do I take it to the next level? How do I, in inverted commas, go pro with it?
Mhm.
And you've now written songs. I mean, you had 6 songs on Celine Dion's last album. You've written and recorded with Eminem. You've had songs recorded by Pink, by Pitbull. how does that 19-year-old Portuguese girl singing in the local community suddenly take that next step? You know,
Right.
was it a sudden thing, or was it like a slow burn?
I mean, it was both. It was sudden in me. I met some people who really believed in me. I mean, I always say, we always have, um, let's say, angels around us. I mean, we always have the push and pull of there are people who influence us one way and people who influence us another way, and everything in between, right? And when I look back now, um, I realize, for a lot of young people, I'm really passionate about this stage that we're talking about, that 15 to 19 into the 20s sort of thing in people's lives, because I really feel like when somebody in that time of their life is, they're still searching, they're molding into this person that they want to be. And if they get these opportunities and follow, if you can convince them in a way to come along this way, and they're passionate enough about something, um, and that spark ignites, then that's where the slow burn happens. But the quick thing is in the meeting of that right person. And I really feel like for me, it was meeting the right people
Tell
at that.
tell us about the restaurant moment, because I love
Oh, yeah.
this.
Okay. I'm going to tell you about one other step before that,
Yeah.
which led to the restaurant moment, because and this is another crazy sort of accidental, I don't know, call it the universe happening and working with me, and the people around me. But I have an aunt who went bought it's so simple. My uncle bought her a ring at this jewelry store downtown, and the jeweler started talking about music. So my aunt, music is, I would say, on my mom's side of the family, especially, like, there are some singers. There's my cousin, also started off and was, wanted to pursue music as well. And so it was her daughter, it was her mom, sorry, who went in and got this jewelry, and then she went to go get it fixed, and she's talking to the jeweler, and the jeweler says, "Oh, I also have this little record label. I have a dream to have a record label. And, oh, my daughter sings and my niece sing." It was just like that. He said, "Oh, I'd like to meet them, I'd like to hear them." And one thing led to another. His name was Sam, and I started working with Sam. So Sam needed a singer. He had these songs he wanted to record. He wanted to make an album dedicated to his dad, and he got me in the studio. And I was still working at the Boys and Girls Club, and I was all of a sudden in a studio for the first time in my life, doing this for real with a producer. Knew nothing about anything. Like, I just said, "What? Okay, I'll sing it." And then there I was singing. Well, Sam introduced me to my vocal coach, who is now still my vocal coach, and she is one of my biggest mentors. All the people that I'm mentioning were all part of the slow burn. They were all the path. So Brenda is her name. She's incredible. Still my vocal coach today. She gave me my first voice lesson, and it started with talking and learning how to breathe and talk in song, and she's just inspired me in so many ways. And so I just, yeah, those things really, I became driven then at that time in my early 20s to take that music path and want to sing. And I just became obsessed. And I didn't, at that time, I hadn't finished high school, and, teenage my teenage life was tough. I had a hard time in many ways, but school suffered from it a little bit. But I turned it around later in high school, and I wanted to finish. And then I found out that I could get credits with my vocal coach through a school here called the Royal Conservatory of Music. So I could get my last 2 credits and actually graduate and come to a vocal lesson and sing and graduate. So I did that, and that sort of ignited that light to continue singing. And then into my early 20s, I thought I would want to go down the musical theater path, and started auditioning, got an agent, was dancing. I was in dance school for a little while. this is how I met my friend at the restaurant, who became my manager and one of my biggest mentors as well. One of my dance classes were canceled, and I had a vocal session right after this class. So I had about 2 hours to kill, starving, had just got out of work, rushed up to my class, ended up being canceled, and found myself on Yonge Street, which is one of the busiest streets here in Toronto, our downtown. And I just started walking up the street and said, okay, I'm going to go sit down. I was in my dance clothes rags. I'm like, going to go sit somewhere and have something to eat. But I was already sort of food conscious and I wanted to eat healthy and all this stuff. And so I thought, I'm not going to go to McDonald's. I'm not going to go to any of these places. I'm going to walk into this Indian restaurant right here. Like, knew nothing about like formal Indian restaurant ordering. I worked downtown where everything was fast food. So you could go where they had the hot tables and just, I want some of that, and that. So I knew what I liked, but so there I am sitting in this restaurant. There are only two other people at the restaurant sitting together. And we're close enough that we can hear each other. So, the server comes and asks me what I'd like to eat. I open up the menu. I have no idea what to order. I was like, butter chicken and rice. I didn't know how to order the food. So one of the gentlemen at the table said, oh, told me a little bit about, oh, that's going to come in a big dish, like blah, blah, blah. And so they sort of helped me order what I wanted. And they said, and I said, oh, I'm Portuguese at some point. I'm not really sure how the whole conversation went, but at some point I said I was Portuguese. And one of the gentleman's wife is Portuguese. So he said, oh, my wife's Portuguese. Have you ever had it? Anyway, conversation starts. Now we're talking about Portuguese food. We're talking about Indian food. And I said, oh, I work downtown at a law firm. Oh, you a lawyer? And then I said, no, I'm a singer. So all of a sudden they sort of started asking very specific questions. Where do you sing? And I thought, well, these guys, like, they know a lot about, music, and no idea who they were. And then all of a sudden it turns out one of them was head of A&R at Sony Canada, and the other one was worked with Céline, and that's how that, and when that, I was, my knees were weak, like I was shaking. I think I even said out loud, oh my gosh, I'm so nervous. I need to sit down, something like that.
Yeah, because you were obsessed with Céline as well, weren't you?
I was a huge Céline fan, and I was in a competition at the moment singing a Céline song on like her B-side sort of thing, a song that wasn't big here at all. It was called Just Walk Away. And they asked me what I said. Well, I'm a singer, and it's funny because it was actually the first time that I said I'm a singer.
And that's a really important thing as well, isn't it? And we say this to a lot of emerging artists and songwriters, to actually, even if you haven't got to where you think you need to get to,
Right.
to actually just say it out loud. I am a songwriter, I am a singer, I am a producer. Because if you're actually singing, then you're a singer. And if you are writing songs, you're a songwriter. You don't need the accolades to have permission to say it out loud, do you?
So right. And I held this bar up so high and thought, well, I can't call myself a singer yet. I'm not Céline Dion. Like, that's crazy. Here I was working so hard, just, working full time, warming up my voice at lunch, during my lunch hour in the parking lots of, downtown Toronto underground things, just to get, what I ahead. And yeah, I had all these insecurities about all of that stuff. And that day, for some reason, that moment, I'm a singer. I said it out loud. And I'm so glad I did, because then it was, great conversation about, they were so great in calming me down, and just being so positive about even where I was. Cause I tended to, and sometimes I do too, I sort of downgrade, what I'm doing. And I did it then. I was like, oh, I'm just a singer, like it's not a big deal. You're not gonna be interested, kind of thing. And they'd say, no, have a seat. What do you mean? What do you sing? Tell us a little bit about what you sing. And it was they were, interested. And I thought, oh, okay. And I said, well, I'm singing. This is funny. I said, I'm in a competition right now and I'm singing a song by Céline Dion. This is before they told me who they were. And I said, it's a song called Just Walk Away. You've probably never heard of it. And he said, oh yeah, that was big in France. That went number. I'm like, how does he know? He must be a real. This is strange, And so that was fun. That was an interesting.
And do
Interesting
you know
trip,
what
but
this is? I mean, we talk about networking a lot and how important it is to network, but the truth is that we're always networking, and if you are willing to talk to
yeah.
anybody in a room, chances are, if you or I walked into a bar and started talking to someone at the bar, within 10 minutes, and I'm not recommending that people do this randomly and unsafely, but within 10 minutes you'd probably find a common ground there with them in some way. It may not be music, but
Hmm.
we're all connected way much more than we think. But what I
Yeah.
love about this is, like, it feels like an angel had you by the shoulder and said, well, first of all, I'm going to cancel that class because you don't need that one today. What you need to do is get a little bit hungry. Do you feel hungry now? I'm going to
Right.
walk you down the street, and don't do those ones. Go into a restaurant you've never been in before
Yeah.
and go sit at that table. I mean, it literally feels like you've been grabbed by the shoulder and put there because this is going to be good for you. Just wait and see.
Yeah.
I mean, it's like, what are the fucking odds of
I
that
know.
happening?
I agree. And you know what? I tell people, I think it happens to all of us all the time.
Yes.
But when we're paying attention, maybe I wasn't paying attention there. I don't know, but I feel like I've always listened to my gut in one way or another. And I feel like we need to do that and stop, not, I mean, I'm going to say, stop following what you think everyone thinks you should be all the time. And sometimes pay attention to that, listen to that. And we all know when it's a good thing and when it's not a good thing. And fear is usually the thing that stops us from, or for me, I should say, when things really freaked me out, I would find ways away from them and not do them. But early on, with all of those people, Brenda at the time, and they were all my coaches. They were all coaching me, and I would just, as long as you're brave enough to talk about it, and someone is going and pay attention to these little nuances in your life, I
Yeah.
think you'd be surprised that these people are all around us all the time. And we are those people to many people we come across too.
Completely. We're
So,
all,
yeah,
I totally believe we're all connected, and
yeah,
it's our job to find out how and why.
right.
And in terms of the fear thing, I saw something recently which I think we all are going to have to do at some point in our lives. In fact, I know we will, but it's like when you're fearful of something, they said
Mhm.
run into the storm.
Mm,
Don't run from it, run into the storm.
mhm,
And it could be something that you just think, oh, this is a tricky situation. And
mhm.
again, I'm not talking about being reckless, but facing, it's all about facing the fear, isn't it? And just sort of like you did. And it's just like saying, oh, well, actually, I'm going to say I am a singer here when you
Yeah,
didn't feel like one.
right.
That was a mini running into the storm, that was, and just saying, well, let's see what happens if I say this. Um,
Absolutely. Yeah.
and
And there was a book my vocal coach had me read as a part of, my training, and it was called Feel the Fear and Do It Anyway.
yeah,
Yeah, because I have a feeling she heard those insecurities. Well, I know she did, and thought, and it's just this skinny little book. It's not a big, but it really helped. It really helped me because I had a lot of stage fright and still do today, but I also had a lot of, just speaking up fright. Just say what it's okay to say that. It's okay to say that right now, you know.
yeah.
So that
And
was a turnaround point for sure. Those three people really, and along with the Kiwanis Club and Mickey, the director there, I would say that was like the path and the direction that sort of led me to into the studios and working with people. Uh,
Magnificent. So
yeah.
so the guy in the restaurant ended up managing you. What was his name?
Dave.
Dave. So Dave
Dave.
ended up managing you,
Yeah.
and your path from then to here.
Yeah.
How swiftly did you get your first, and again in inverted commas, your break? That first
Yeah.
break where you went, "Oh, this is a real thing here." Did
Right.
Was he trying to promote you as a singer, as a
Right.
songwriter? What was the deal
Right.
there?
Well, when I first met them, I wasn't. It was 2-3 years later where I really started to work. We started working together, but up until then, I was still working with Sam and doing a lot of gigging and stuff like that. And at that point, Sam had actually introduced me to Dan Hill, a Canadian singer-songwriter. He was the one took my first lyric and turned it into a song. And that was when I thought, well, first of all, I didn't think I had lyrics. I thought I just had a bunch of poetry in a book, that got all my thoughts out because that was important. It was important to say that words I had to put them down on paper from a really young age. Like that was something I loved. It was therapeutic. It was something to get because I wasn't really good at standing up and saying things out loud. So I'd had to get them down on a piece of paper. So I've got scraps and little journals and all kinds of stuff still till this day, like tons of that stuff. And when I first met Dan, I was singing some of his demos. So I was being hired for the first time to get on a mic and sing, and then showed him a lyric, and he turned it and said, this is a song. This is actually a song. Let me show you. And so he turns it into a song, and I realized, well, I can do that. And I loved it. That the bug just started there. It was like, how about this song? How about this? How about, I wanted to get this all done all the time. And then it turned out, well, Dan worked on some of Celine's records as well. So it turned out they came out to watch me perform. And yeah, and that's where that relationship started, but it still took 2-3 years to say, hey, maybe I can make a record. Maybe is this something interesting that you'd want to take on? And Celine's one of the biggest stars in the world at this point. So I was around, but it wasn't it was really a very slow burn at that point, but it got me working and it got me trying and working hard and wanting to put stuff in front of them and say, and I was thinking of myself at that point as the artist. Um, but I didn't, I didn't, I don't know. I feel like I didn't really know who I was as the artist. I was singing all these different genres, and all of a sudden I was five different
Yeah,
artists.
and that's such an important thing for artists. I've waxed lyrical about this many times about an artist having a real identity,
Hmm.
and a singular identity. Doesn't mean that they can't sing different kinds of songs, but there's always a thread that runs. The great artists, there's always a thread that runs through them. It's like the moment you hear a Simply Red record with Mick Hucknall, you go, oh,
Hmm.
that's Simply Red, it's Mick Hucknall.
Right.
When you hear Bruce Springsteen, Bob Dylan, Barbara Streisand, Celine, it's just like they're indefatigably themselves, aren't they?
Exactly.
And I know many fantastic singers who actually couldn't get one in particular that she couldn't get a record deal. She's one of the most amazing singers I've ever worked with.
Mhm.
And present company accepted, of course. And
Mhm.
but she couldn't get arrested because one minute she's singing jazz, the next she's doing country, and the voice is changing bit to mold between the styles.
Yep.
Of course, it's a blessing when you're a songwriter to be able to do that, isn't it?
Yeah. And and I learned that and I love being in the studio, and I love singing all different types of genres and getting them out and writing these tunes and like bringing them to life. So that definitely became a passion for me. But I still have this bug that wants to make that record. I mean, I have hundreds of songs now, and so many of them are very personal. It's just that every time I start on that road, something comes up that makes me so much more excited. I don't know that just saying that out loud, you gotta, what was I meant to be doing? You know, like what?
Yeah.
I guess I was just following my heart. And when I started, so I started working with a group of guys. Oops, sorry about that. A group three other guys, and we turned into this production slash band called the New Royales, and that it was a fun side project, and I loved being the artist in that fun side project because it was just completely different than anything happening, and I was still able to write these big ballads and this big, singing this big, vocal genre that I loved doing for Céline and it was such a big genre still at the time. People were singing these big, that the whole 90s, late 90s, early 2000s. So, but when I started with the New Royales, that's how the whole hip hop industry started. I never would imagine being on an Eminem track at that point. Like, I was this, big balladeer singing these pop tunes. And sometimes they'd go off and talk about, all in the same room, and they're talking about these really cool acts. And I'm sitting there going, I don't know who that is.
So how did it happen? How did the whole Eminem thing happen then with the New Royals?
Oh, yeah. So, well, I met Injeti, great friend and artist here, singer, songwriter. Well, I should say just all around producer, writer. He's Canadian artist and songwriter, producer. And we met through our publishers, EMI. I don't even know if I was published by them at the time, but it was all through networking. I met someone who knew someone. And next thing you know, I was in the room with Chin and we were talking about writing. And we just connected creatively so quickly, and we became friends really quickly. He lives in Vancouver, from Toronto, lives in Vancouver. And the next thing you know, Chin's making a record and we're writing on Chin's record. And that's how I met Eric Alcock, who was also a friend of Chin. So Chin was sort of like the glue that got us all together and put us all in the room. And Chin was working with DJ Khalil out in LA, who is a hip hop producer and really well known and respected even at the time there, and he's doing incredible things. And so, I mean, couldn't imagine, I wasn't thinking past just getting together, hanging out and writing for Chin's record. I wasn't thinking past that because I didn't think I knew anything past that. And that's how it started. We worked for a year on this New Royales project and doing our own thing on the side, me writing for Céline and any of the other pop acts I had, the opportunity to write for at the time, which wasn't very many. It was just, I was writing with some producers who were writing for other bigger records and stuff, but I was just scratching that surface, really.
And when you say you were writing for Céline, you were sort of aiming for her, but at that point you didn't land any, did you?
Nothing. No, not at all. At that point, I was with Dan. It's like a big web, right? Because it's always these little baby steps that got me. Because a lot of people ask me, how did you get into the room with this? Well, it was tiny little baby steps who one day called, they needed a singer. I ended up in the room and, all of a sudden, right? But I had been working with Dave already, but mostly looking for songs for me, kind of like on a developmental thing, but not doing that much yet, but getting in the room with some songwriters, like with Dan Hill, and through Dan Hill, I ended up working with Jörgen Elofsson out in Sweden, who had worked on the Céline album as well in the past and was working on other artists. And we just all became really close and good friends. And, I was training so much vocally, and I got to do a lot of these demos, and people trusted me as a singer first before anything. So
let's come back to the Céline thing. I sort of completely rerouted you there.
Sure, no worries.
But let's go back to the Eminem thing, because this is brilliant that a balladeer gets to finally do what you've done. I love this story. So so you're working suddenly with DJ Khalil as well as Eric and Chin.
Mhm.
And how did the opportunity come about for Eminem?
Yeah. Well, Khalil was working on a bunch of projects. And, he always said, he's like, we just have to keep writing, and build our catalog. Keep writing. Let's just keep building, keep building. So that's what we did. We spent a lot of time just collecting tons of material, having lots of stuff, and having an incredibly amazing time doing it. Like, this wasn't like we were, in the factory, like, sweat. It was hard work, but we just really had such a great time being um, as authentic as possible creatively. Like, we weren't following any leads, we weren't following anything. We were, or any acts. We weren't saying let's land it on this. We were making the New Royale's record, and Khalil pitched it. This would be a good question for him. I'm not really sure the first who the first person to hear our stuff was, but I know there was a group called Slaughterhouse, a hip hop group, and they picked up one of our hooks and Khalil's tracks, and I believe Eminem had signed them at the time, or it was connected to Eminem. He had signed them at the time. I believe he's working with them and probably still is. And I'm guessing that that's how he heard that, or maybe Khalil sent it to them directly. But they recorded a song called "The One," and that was the first cut in the hip hop industry I had ever landed, and it was surreal. But it was also during a time when pop hooks were the thing to do in a hip hop, mainstream hip hop, like the Rihanna "Love the Way You Lie," like that whole era was a big deal at the time. And so it made sense for me to be singing these big hooks in these songs. I was really still doing what I did. I didn't have to be anyone else but myself in these tunes. So yeah, the only difference is I got to use a little bit more of, because I grew up in the city and listening to urban music and stuff, and doing a little bit of the alternative stuff that I love doing. There you go. I was singing in a completely different genre again, but it was so much fun, and I had such a good time doing it. We just went with it, and we would jam, and yeah. And so Eminem was making the Recovery album at the time, and heard something and asked for more. And so we just worked and worked and worked on that, and sent him tons of stuff. And the Recovery album happened.
Amazing.
Yeah, it's crazy. Yeah, I know. That's like, maybe 5 years, 3 to 5 years in the making.
And you got to meet and perform with Eminem as well, didn't you?
I did.
How was that?
It was a great experience. Yeah, they were looking for a singer for their Home versus Home, I think it was called, concert with Jay-Z in, yeah, it was crazy. And other guests like 50 Cent and Drake,
Yeah.
and I'm not sure who else was there, but it was amazing. They needed a backup vocalist for Eminem and to be a part of the show. And through Khalil's manager Greg, they said, "Oh, how about the girl singing on these tracks you sent us?" And "Won't Back Down" was out already, and Recovery album was out. So they called me in to do an audition, really. So here I was. I drove over to Detroit and I auditioned for it. And I remember the MD just getting up and saying, "Okay, we got a singer." And I was like, ah, they gave me a sheet of all of his hits, and I had to learn all that in, like 10 days or something, I think it was. So next thing you know, yeah, I am at Comerica Park with Eminem, and doing tons of his hooks with him,
Amazing.
including the ones I wrote, which was incredible. And I got to work with him at the studio on a hook that he had, that he's like, "Oh, I really hear you on this. Do you mind just trying it out?" And yeah, it was a great experience. It was
How
really
is he to
cool.
work with?
I was just about to say, yeah, it's really fun to watch him work. he's such a hard worker. I mean,
I
it's
get that feeling.
yeah, you don't become Eminem but sitting around and like just hanging out and doing whatever. I mean, I don't know anything about how his story and what he does, on his off time and stuff, but I just know that when I was in the studio uh, with him during the day, I was there a couple of days. Yeah, there was music all day long, room to room, just constantly working, and just has got light bulbs going off in his head all the time. Like when you look at him, you just say, you can just tell and he was really fun to rehearse with. So cool and down to earth. He made me feel super comfortable, and yeah,
Amazing.
it was
I love
yeah,
that.
crazy experience.
It's good to meet good people in the business, isn't it?
Yeah, it really is. It really is. They were
Amazing.
all wonderful. They were all great. The band was, oh my goodness, the talent. I remember driving over to the stadium, and they just broke out into this song in the van, and they were all incredible singers and harmony. I mean, I felt like I was at church or something. It was great.
Yeah, these are what I call the highs you can't buy, and
Oh,
we all have different ones, but there are moments in our careers which are always unpredictable. When you're a songwriter in the business, every day's a surprise,
yeah, no
but
kidding.
occasionally we have these little glimpses of why we are here,
Mm-hmm,
what we're born to do.
hmm
And where you get the chills going down the back of your neck, and you have that sense of, I'm never ever going, or I'm always going to remember this moment. I don't like using negatives, so I'm
hmm
always going to remember this moment for
hmm
the rest of my life, because they're just so. You couldn't go onto a website and say, I would like to buy an experience day where
Oh,
I am in the back of a van, or on a tour bus rather, with all these incredible musicians singing and making the hairs on my arms stand up,
yeah.
giving me the chills. For me, one of my things was watching one of my songs open up a gig at the Albert Hall with Mike and Mechanics to 5,000 people there, and that roar of the audience on the first song, and it was my song, and I just wept. But
Mhm.
but it's the moments that like I say, the highs you can't buy, that make it just for me. Those are the things that drive me more than any royalty check could ever do.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, if it were all about the royalty check, I don't know if we'd still be, I mean, it's great, but yes, those rewards, they're all bonuses and incredible, and I'm so grateful for them. But you're right. It's the experiences looking back, and if there are times where, I take a break and I don't write for a week or so, and it just calls you. You can't not do it. And I always say, I could go into a completely different career, but I'll never stop singing and writing.
Yeah,
Um, I, that's going to the grave with me. You know,
yeah,
it's
same
just
here.
something you do, you have to do.
So let's talk about this lifelong passion that you've had, this lifelong obsession with trying to get a
Mhm.
song recorded by Celine Dion.
Yes.
It's like from the moment you're like performing in a competition, one of her B-sides, to
Yeah,
working with people that know her, that are giving you opportunities to pitch for her,
right,
and then to what happened recently. So,
right.
so that was, you were relentless with writing songs for her along the way
Oh
that
yeah.
didn't get picked up until they did. How many shots at it did you have?
Oh, I lost count a long time ago. But you should hear the conversations, like walking into a room of all, a hip hop beat going, and then me going, "Hey guys, you want to try something for Celine Dion?" It was that. You can ask anyone I've been in a room with. At some point, I'm like, "We should try something for Celine. What is she doing? I don't know, but she'll be doing something someday. Maybe not right now, but I just I first of all love that genre. I love it because it moves me so much, it always has. And it's always the first thing I turn on when I, need to go into that headspace. I love amazing voices. I love to be moved by voices. I listen to music in different languages and not understand a thing they're saying, but when someone can move you with melody, you know, and expression and their voice, for me, that's always my go-to. I just love that. And so, being able to write for someone like Celine was, yeah, it became an obsession pretty quickly for me. And I felt like I'd been singing all of her songs and imitating her for so long before even getting remotely close to her, that I felt like I could do it. Like I just really, I said, I could do this. I know this stuff. And those songs just kept coming to me and I'd have ideas and I'd want to get them finished. And so she just became sort of like the muse, you know, even like writing for her was writing for really anyone in that genre, you know, or writing a timeless song. If you think of Celine and you want to write you know, you want to write a timeless song, and I had been writing for her and so inspired by her and her music that I don't know, this just went hand in hand. It's not something I thought about. It was just it worked and it inspired me and got me writing. So I chased that. Yeah, I did. And it was no, 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 no for many years. It wasn't like a no. It was more, you're so close. This is great, you know? And it was always positive. I always got really great feedback, but you know,
We
I
have
just
to live with this, don't we? You know, the rejection is part of the business, isn't it?
it is.
And even when it's pleasant rejection, and they go, oh, yeah, it's great, but not right. You know, it
Yeah,
still feels like a kick in the nuts.
it
Um,
does.
uh,
Absolutely.
and how do you deal with multiple rejections? Because we all do.
Um, I mean, I guess I could say you get used to it. I mean, you do. I don't expect a no, but I try not to put expectations on things and just really serve the song and the feeling at the moment, and you know, collect all of the information you need and why you're going to sit and write this tune and let it inspire you. And if it's something that does inspire you, then do it. I mean, there are times where, you know, there's a project that comes up and it's a really good idea to do it, so you do it, but you know, I'm crazy about it, but you know, it's still, the outcome is great, and so it's
Yeah.
fine. But then there's those certain projects and artists that, oh, you just love and that just inspire you to write a song all every time you sit down and write. And that's what it was for me. So the rejection, yeah, it hurts. It would hurt to be so close to something and not get it. Oh, it kills, you
Yeah,
know.
it's like
But
unrequited love, isn't it?
oh, it hurts so bad. But you'd write about it.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. You do. So you finally end up after decades. It was decades, wasn't it? Sort of like having a go at it. Um,
It was, yeah.
you finally end
It
up
was,
getting six on
yeah, yeah.
her album. Was it 2022? The album it was, wasn't it?
Uh,
Courage.
Courage, it was no, it was before that. When did
Was it
Courage come
21?
out? 21 maybe?
21, right.
21. Yeah. No, not 20, it wasn't 2022. I think it's 2021.
Okay, so
Yeah.
you
Uh,
finally, so
or
you,
even 29, could have been earlier. Sorry, I should know that, but
I,
look it up.
right.
Somewhere between 2019 and 2021. I
I'm
don't
I'm
know.
I'm interviewing you. I should bloody know it as well. But you end up getting six songs on the
Yeah.
album all in one go. That must have been a hell of a call to get.
Well, it was for the longest time. Well, Dave, my manager he's so good at like not getting my hopes up too high.
Yeah,
You know, he kind of just keeps things cool for a long time. And it wasn't really, I, you know, he's he's also amazing in the way that I got to work for it. Like it's not going to get handed even straight to her, you know. I had to do it like everyone else did it and hand it into the label, and then it was a collective thought on
yeah,
a bunch of songs including mine, you know. So just to have my song as a part of that list of songs took a very, very long time to do. And I think all those baby sips and getting onto the Eminem record and doing all that is sort of, it gives you your resume and allows you into the room. And even though I was in the room a long time ago, I really had to build my resume to get into this room where they were listening to these records that Celine was listening to, right? Because up until then, even though I knew people, it wasn't handed to me. Like, no, I was still a part of a group of people who knew people. Like, I wasn't the only one who knew, you know, someone, right? So we were all going for that. And my song just never made it until, recently, until I had built all these other credits that
Yeah.
were now, okay, well, now you're closer to that level and that level of writing. It wasn't really, yes, it is closer to the people, yes. But at the end of the day, the one thing I have learned is it's more about the song than anything. Like, to
Yeah.
get in the room, it's more about the song than anything. Your song has to also be on the level of the people
Yeah.
you know. So I had to do all that work and homework to get on a record like that because yeah, that's just how long it took me. And some people, maybe it takes them a lot longer or not. And I've been in rooms with people just starting out where I'm like, wow, how are you so amazing at this already? That took me 10 years
Yeah,
to
me
get to
too.
that, so I feel like I take a little longer than a lot of people,
Yeah.
that I'm around.
How
I
did you
really
celebrate? How did you celebrate when you found out you'd got six on there?
What did I do? Did I celebrate? Well, it was such a slow thing. It was such a slow like, just I think I celebrated more when I learned that, the label liked Courage. It was because when we first handed in Courage, it didn't sound like it was going to make it really because, well, the arrangement was not right. There were some things wrong with it. And Stefan Macchio is also with Sony. So he was working directly with John Delp to make the record. Well, not directly, but he was one of the writers that John was, reaching out to make this record. And I wrote Courage with Eric Alcock and with Stefan Macchio. So Stefan handed it to John and I handed it to Dave. And so the song is sitting around, and then John loved it and brought it up in a conversation with them. So, hey, you hear this song? And, oh yeah, I know this song. Sort of like it organically made its way through all the writers and some changes that needed to be made. But at first it was super long. The arrangement was long. The instrumental section was too long. Like, there was so many things wrong with it. We had to redo it a couple times. And Stefan was like, he's so determined, and he was, he wanted to make this happen. So
This is the power of the rewrite, and I've said this to a lot of the students that I've worked with, that J.K. Rowling rewrote the first chapter of Harry Potter and the Philosopher's Stone, I believe it was 15 times, still
wow,
got turned down by 12 publishers, but went on to become a billionaire.
wow,
And it's because of the dedication. It's not
right,
because, yes, of course, it was a great idea and a remarkable sort of franchise that spawned from it, but the dedication to do that,
hmm,
to do the rewrite. And I totally understand. I know you're just the same.
hmm,
That Stefan is relentless in
yes,
getting it right, because it's like
hmm,
one tiny change to a song can turn
hmm.
it into a hit song, can't it? And that is
Oh,
absolutely true.
well, that's what happened with Courage. Yeah, it was the section. Just I remember getting on the call and saying, "Listen, the arrangement's wrong. There's something wrong with the arrangement. Let's change it to this." And Eric had some ideas, and it was changed a couple times until it became what it is now. Like, you'll see that kind of bridge section happens two times.
Yeah.
It was only supposed to happen once, but it was like the highlight of the song. So how could we bring this in more? How are we going to do this? And that was Stefan and Eric. They figured out what to do with that, and it turned the ears around, and made more sense that
Yeah.
way. And so, yeah, we worked on that quite a bit. I mean, even writing the lyric took a couple days. I wasn't even sure about it even then, and I thought, oh, do I have to show this to someone else? Can someone make it better? And
Is
so
there a part of you in the lyric? Is there something? Is there
mm,
something from you that sort of like was the seed in there?
um, I think with this one, it was really trying to channel how Celine could be feeling about losing Renee. And I'd never lost till this day, lost someone that close to me. So it
And
was hard
Renee
to,
was her manager for
Renee was her
her
manager,
entire life.
husband
Yeah.
and she's got 3 kids with him. And, you know, she's very honest to the world, and you're like sitting in her living room when you're watching an interview. She tells you so much about herself and all the little things that she shares with people. She's really loves to be close to her audience. And I knew that, when I was young, and it really drew me to her too, because I felt you feel connected to her and through her music, and when you watch her interviews, and it tells you all these little details about her children. And I remember once she was talking about breastfeeding and all this stuff. I'm like, whoa, you feel like you're talking to a family member or something. Even I think the interviewer was like, you are so generous with us and your listeners, right? So Celine was one of those people where you could write so much about her, because she gives you all of her little moments that she has with her kids, and little moments she had with Renee and losing him. And she really shows all her emotion and all of that. And so I know Stefan had spoken to her too, and just trying to pick up all this information about how we're going to write this powerful song about something we've never felt before, and trying to channel that. So pieces of me would be, yeah, we're always relating to things in our life, loss, and you know things that give us that similar feeling. But this one, I was really, really trying hard to channel all the stuff that Celine had given us through everything I watched, all the songs I sang. And
This is the power of empathy as a songwriter. I think is one of the most important tools, or tool. It's not even a tool really. It's a quality of a good songwriter is to be empathic.
Mhm.
Not only for the people that they're writing with in a room to be able to feel things,
Right,
but to be able to put yourself in someone else's situation and go, wow, I wonder how that would feel, and to
right,
be able to write about that with authenticity and with integrity.
right.
And so I think that's yeah, this is an amazing exercise in empathy, really. And
Mhm.
can do you remember the lyrics to the chorus? Can you remember the lyrics to the chorus?
Courage, don't you dare fail me now. I need you to keep away the doubts. I'm staring in the face of something new. You're all I got to hold on to. So courage, don't you dare fail me now.
It's just so, you know what I love about this, and I've listened to the song a ton of times, you know that, and it's you could the lyric could have gone along the route of I really need courage now,
Mm,
and more sort of victimy, but it's actually the challenge that you put forward with the lyric and say, don't you dare fail me now.
mhm,
And also now it says, shit, I could break. I'm right on the point of breaking. So just that one word, it tells you how vulnerable
mhm,
the singer is, how vulnerable Celine you
mhm,
are at that point in the lyric, and yet there's still strength in the vulnerability by saying, "Don't you dare fail me now." It's a challenge. So
mhm.
there's nothing victim about it, and I think that's why the lyric is so incredibly powerful, and no wonder it ended up becoming the title track of the album, the title track of the title of the tour as
Mhm.
well. And what a magnificent way to to suddenly become a huge part of Celine's world, eh?
And I'm so glad that that shows and comes through because that was really important for me. And I'm going to say for the other writers in the room too, but it was important for me. You know, we all go through tough times, and maybe the easiest thing to do is just to fall back and say, well, that's it for me. I'm going to stop here, and I'm just going to break and, you know, just not find. The hardest thing to do is to find that strength to move forward. It's the toughest. And I've been through some stuff too, and I realize in Celine, she's not a quitter. You know, you see her standing up there, she bangs on her chest. She's got that like passion and that thing that she just powers through things. And it felt like that's more of her personality, to say something like that. And that's why I listen to her. And I know that having that platform and the people that she can reach out to, I think that when you have the power to reach out to so many people, you have the responsibility to lift them up, you know. And there's a place for every type of song, even the songs where you're like, I'm breaking now, I'm a puddle and I need to be a puddle today. You know, there's that song. It's necessary. We all need them too. But it felt like the right thing to do to make it empowering. And it actually sparked from a conversation that she was having. I watched an interview and her talking about she would pick up a photo of Renee and talk and look at the photo and say, what do I do? What do I do now? I need you. You know, you're not here. I'm lost. I need you. And she said that she knew he was around and she could feel him. And one of the first songs she sang after he passed, I think it was in Vegas, was "The Show Must Go On."
Oof.
So,
Wow.
exactly right. This is all part of that conversation.
I would have been in pieces if I'd have tried to
I
sing that after
know.
losing someone.
I think she was too. I always remember these, you know, I think she still did that tune for a long time afterwards, but it was a part of her show. May even be a part of her tour, if I'm not mistaken. But um, yeah. So that was, I think that was her truth. I think she wanted to be empowering and get and say, listen, I'm going to do this for us. I'm going to keep moving. And it was one of the things that she would say to him, I think, you know,
Yeah.
like, I'm going to keep this going and this light shining. Yeah.
Amazing. Let's. I've got a few questions about you now.
Okay.
Um, my first question is, why do you do this? Why do you make music?
Mhm.
What's your why?
Ah, that made me emotional. I don't know why. You know why? Because there are photos of my kids right up here. Yeah. Anyway, um, I was not expecting to I wasn't expecting to get emotional about that, Martin.
No, it's
Uh, you know, I've been asked that question before, but you know, I'm looking at these two little faces. You know, now it's changed over time, right? A lot of it now is, yeah, for them and for us and to keep this going. And, but mostly because I, this is the way I get through everything in my life. You know, this is right from the start, I wrote everything down. And instead of having to get up and face things, you know, with my voice and speaking up, I would put it in a song and I'd put a melody to it. And that's how I gave all of the things that I needed to get out a voice, through writing these songs, and then eventually turned into watching how people were moved by them. And, you know, for instance, Courage, I would get, you know, people would call me up and or email me and say, you know, my dad passed away and my mom listens to Courage every day thinking about him, and I just want to thank you for that song. You know, and I think, okay, I did it. That's what we're meant to do. That's why I should do this every single time. There is no greater reward than knowing that some stranger out there was moved in a positive way and like got up. You know, you tell that story about the woman whose life was saved through a song that you wrote. And
Mm.
if there is no greater reason to do, I don't know a greater reason to, you know, to write and get these songs out. I feel like now every time there's a song, because I mean, I've written songs when, you know, we were, you know, angry songs and songs that were not so inspirational or whatever, you know, the cases. And but that's learning as I go along. Now I look back and I think, oh, I could have made that more positive. I could have changed somebody's life with that song if I had just turned this into that, or, you know, took the negative out and made it. But now that's like the drug, is like to get a song that moves people like that and watching the impact it makes.
Yeah. Even people. Oh, by the way, it was Sharon Vaughan's song that saved
Oh,
her life. Yeah, it's
okay, okay,
absolutely
okay.
amazing story.
Yeah.
And Sharon's going to be on another podcast. But um, yeah, it's. I think that is possibly the highest high. I was going to ask you, you know, what are the highest highs that you've had in this, and you know, having those moments when people say you changed my life because of your
Mhm.
song. That's amazing when you can change the life of a stranger without even interacting with them directly.
Mhm.
You know,
Mhm.
doctors and surgeons and care workers and you know the first defense people, the first line people,
Mhm.
firemen and stuff. They do it by interacting, but we just create something, put it out there in the
Yeah.
ether. You know, it doesn't. You can't even hold it in your hand,
Yeah.
and yet you can save someone's life, you can change someone's life, you can improve their life. And
Mhm.
even when people come up to me and say, oh my God, I love that song that you wrote, you know, I've loved that lyric for years. Somebody said it to me last week and I was like, oh my God, you know,
Right.
you just feel so privileged to do this for a job.
Absolutely.
um what's left on your to-do list in music?
Yeah. Well, there's always, you know, putting a record out of my own left. And I will, and I've got the songs. I think I've got the songs. Um, I'd like to perform a little bit, and because there's really, it's a part of the writing process too, where you get to sit and talk to an audience and talk about where these songs came from. Now that I have these songs under my belt, and I can look back and um, you know, it's so interesting how when you're living through the moment of writing these tunes and getting them out, or performing with Eminem, or like getting on the Celine record, the New Royales, and developing this family with this band, when you're going through it, you don't realize how amazing these experiences are until later on. And now looking back, I feel like, oh, I just want to talk about them and tell everyone how this song happened, or this is where we were when we wrote this, or inspire other people to say, look, you know, those ideas you got scribbled down, you don't think they're anything, but they are. This is why it is, you know, oh, this is a song I wrote for Eminem, or this is a song I wrote for Celine, with these scraps that were nothing. Look, you know, they're nothing. They you think they aren't, but um, I really want to. I'm having such a good time inspiring and mentoring people through the TSA and all that, and meeting all these, you know, new writers and stuff, and igniting that spark in them. I feel like I do really want to do a lot more of that. It feels like the right place for me to be. So, getting into a little bit more of that, and yeah, and a little more performing, and maybe putting this album together and putting something out soon, hopefully.
Yeah, do it.
Yeah.
I've just done it after 30 years of not doing it,
And
and just
yeah,
starting. And
it's
it's the
great.
best fun. It's the best fun. I drove 3.5 hours in December in the snow to do a 30-minute gig and then come back home again. And it was like I felt like a 19-year-old again.
Yeah.
The best fun. The best fun. Uh,
Yeah.
Songwriter, complete the sentence, please.
Okay.
Songwriters should always.
Believe in their idea and say it, speak it, get it out. Don't hold it back.
Amazing. The music business needs.
The music business needs to keep people in it that are using the platform to lift other people's lives.
I love it. Every day is better when.
Every day is better when when I'm breathing. When I get up and take a breath. It's the simple things.
Yeah.
When I can recognize the simple things and be grateful for them.
Amazing.
Yeah.
This has been an absolute joy. You've had me choking up as well. It wasn't just you that teared up. I totally feel it. And, you know, you don't need it, but congratulations on such an incredible career and success with Celine, with Eminem, with Pitbull. We could have talked for. I'll bring you back to talk about the other stars that you've worked with, but thank you so much for sharing so completely everything that you do and your story. It's going to be immortalized now.
Yay. Thank you, Martin. Honestly, thank you for all that you do. It's always amazing chatting with you. I feel like we can do this for hours.